Christmas. It's just about that time of year when Whoville is full of holiday cheer, where we make up stories for our kids to believe as we smile that they're just so young and naive. Over time, we let them know that most of it is fake, but some children catch on quick and start to lose faith. But wait, it does take faith like a child to believe in the real Christmas story, the one about how a manger was filled up with glory, the one where a star lit up the sky brighter than Rudolph's nose and where the Grinch couldn't seal what was about to unfold. The one where the masterpiece of a plan is the master brought peace, embodying what it means that it's better to give than receive. So this year, take all the time you want looking under the tree. I promise there won't be a single present you can open that will give you what you need. What you're looking for is in a stable and it can set your heart free. So I guess that leaves this one simple question. Do you still believe?
We are in our Advent series, and I love this, man, going through all of these, primary, prominent words that help define the coming of Christ is incredible. That said, today's message is kind of interesting for me. It is one that I am still working through. There are times in teaching, and I think for a lot of us it's this way, as we work through our faith, there are parts of our Christianity, of our faith development that do tend to come a little easier for us. And a lot of it is dependent upon our circumstances. It depends a little bit on our upbringing. It depends on our personality. There are parts of Scripture for you and I, and they may not be the same, or when you read through it, you're like, okay, I'm down with that. And then there are other parts of the Bible based on our upbringing, based on our personalities, based on where you read through it and you're going, wow, I still got to wrestle through this. Today, as we work through this is a part of Scripture that it's a little bit thick and it's hard for me to work through. And I promise I won't get it perfectly right. I promise I won't. But I do believe that the journey into this absolutely will make us more whole. Lord, I ask by your grace that you would move today, that my words would do nothing more than point to you, that we would make you ever more famous and known. Lord, I pray for a miracle. I believe that you still do amazing things. I believe that you still do heal. I believe that you still do, God, you can take on the deepest of addictions and pull us through and make lives whole. You can heal marriages. You can heal homes. I believe this. And Lord, I pray for a miracle even in this room today. You are working one, and we believe that you will continue to do so. Let today be a new day, whether it's somebody watching online, somebody sitting in one of our services at one of our campuses. God, I ask by your grace that you would do great things. Let your name be ever more known and made famous today. And then those of us, Lord, that maybe have hearts that have been a little hardened to the idea that you can still work in miraculous ways, do surgery on that today too. In your name, amen. Hope is a funny thing. When we have hope and it's strong, it inspires, it gives us strength, it can help us press on. I mean, you get the very best out of somebody when they have hope. Hope is a powerful thing. But on the flip side, when somebody loses hope, it's like they just turn off. It's gone. Even in ministry, in my years, I've been able to, going through school, undergrad, grad school, ministry, years of working with people. Man, you can go into a hospital room, and I've met with people who have no hope, and it's like they're off. And I've met with people that have hope, and it's like they can conquer and take on even the most awful of illnesses in powerful ways. And even if their lives do come to an end, maybe even earlier than many would like, they still can do it with this fortitude internally. Hope is so powerful when it's present. I love going to the circus, thinking, how do these go together? Hang on. Love going to the circus. I remember the first time I went to one, years ago. My parents took me to one. I was really young, and you walk into this room, and it's kind of like the big tent circus, right? They've got the middle ring. We're all in these stands, And you're sitting there, the crowd is loud, and then the lights go down. You mean you can like hear him powering down the lights in this big tent circus? And then the music comes on, and it's loud. Listen, if you think music in church is too loud, you'll hate the circus. You're there, man, the music starts pumping, it's intense, it's over the top, and then the lights shoot in the middle of the scene, or in the middle of that center circle, and there's this like giant lion, and somehow the guy has it trained where it just roars out. I mean, you can feel the whole crowd, it's like goosebumps, on me, and you can feel the intensity with other people too around you. Don't feel the goosebumps on other people, that's weird. But, the intensity of the room is there, man. It's over the top. And then as you watch it, like the trapeze artists come in, and they're doing their thing, and you're thinking, this guy's going to die in front of all of us. He's going to fall on the ground and die, and the lion's going to eat him, and that's going to be weird, right? No, so much intensity all happened in that room, the anticipation of what might happen. And then you're sitting there, and the lights shoot over to the side. I was kind of sitting on the side end, and this giant elephant comes walking out next to me. And you're there, lights are low, music is intense, and you're thinking, this animal is so big, it's like a wall. All it has to do is bump to the left a little bit, and it feels like our whole stadium would just collapse. And you watch the elephant go out there and walk around. If he just hit the bottom of that pole, the trapeze artist would be done. So much strength, so much size. When the elephant's done, comes to the center ring and comes back up and puts its front paws in the air, or hooves, or whatever they called on an elephant. Everybody goes crazy, comes back down, walks to the side, and the trainer takes a little rope and just kind of throws it around its leg, and the animal stops. And I remember thinking in my brain, how is it that this elephant is inhibited by that little rope? Like, the animal is so big and so strong, all it would take, right, is one little tug, and it would just snap it. But it doesn't even try. So out of curiosity, and a few circuses later, I decided to look up how they train elephants. I found it so intriguing. Not just elephants, but the lions, all the different animals. And as you look into it, some of it's not as nice as I thought it would be. But, you're learning as you're watching and reading through all this stuff. And what they do with the elephants is when they're young, they take these huge chains, or even like tension wires, they wrap them around the leg of the elephant, and they stick it deep into like a cement slab when the elephants are babies. So every time the little baby elephant goes to make a run for it, it would jerk it back down. So over and over and over and over and over again. Well, eventually the elephant gets in its mind that when it feels something around its leg, it can't go anywhere. And so it lands as an adult so much bigger, so much stronger. Even as an adult, all it takes is a little tiny rope, and the elephant just won't even try. It's done. It has the strength, it has the size, it has the capacity, but it won't even try. I think for us as Christians, we get to the place spiritually, maybe you were a kid and you were praying for God to do a miraculous thing. Maybe you were praying for something that you shouldn't even have. Maybe it was a loved one that was sick. I don't know. I don't know God's timing. I don't know why He chooses to intervene in some ways, and sometimes He chooses not to. It's a big picture. We're going to talk about some of that here in just a few minutes. But for whatever reason, your efforts led you to the place where you don't even try anymore. John 11:17 through 27 says this. And now when Jesus came, He found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. So they didn't have as good of embalming processes that we have today with the body. So the body stinks. It's beginning to rot. Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them concerning their brother. So the story gets a little broader for us. A couple of Jesus' core team members, their brother has died and has been in the tomb for 4 days. So when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met Him. So finally, Jesus shows up on the scene 4 days after our brother has been dead, but Mary just stayed at home. But Mary remained seated in the house. She's like, you know what? He's too late. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. And Martha jumps in and says, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. That's key. We're going to come back to that. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is coming into the world. May God add his blessing to the reading of his word. To really get the weight of this, we have to put ourselves in the biblical text. What would it have been like? I mean, we know that these ladies were kind of a part of Jesus' core team. We know that many of his disciples and even these ladies would have seen him do miraculous things over and over and over again. I mean, they would have been able to watch with their own eyes Jesus have the blind see, and the lame walk, the deaf hear. Over and over and over and over again. And some of these miracles, I mean, I got to be honest, all miracles are awesome, but some miracles I would like to see more than others. Like if I could pick and choose, if they were all on like a, heavenly DVD, I'd be like, I got to see this movie. Download that file, right? Like I want to check this one out. And those would be like the lame walking. For whatever reason, I'm so curious about the lame walking. What would that have been like? To be in a setting, there's a guy, atrophied legs, probably disfigured legs on the ground. Jesus says, get up. And as he stands up, I can see this in my imagination. It's like the bones and the joints get straight and the calf fills out. And I could just, in my mind, imagine this guy standing up. And it's like he doesn't just get the muscle mass and the coordination and the legs straightening out. It's like he even gets the knowledge of how to walk if he's been lame from birth. Those kind of miracles blow my mind. Can you imagine watching that kind of stuff on a regular basis? They would have seen Jesus do amazing, amazing things over and over again. And then one of their family members of the core leadership team gets sick, and Jesus doesn't do anything about it. So when Jesus finally does show up, Mary doesn't even go to see him. She stays at home. I can't help but wonder, or maybe a better way to say it, I'm going to go back. Have you ever had a conversation with God? Have you ever had a conversation with God where you cried out, why me? Or why not me? Have you ever had a conversation with God where it's like, why me? Why do I have to be the one to go through this? Why am I stuck in this state? Why do I have to battle with anxiety or depression or have this physical? Why me? Why do I have to go through this? It's not fair. Or maybe you have questions or conversations with God and it's like, why not me? Why can't I have this? It feels like you have your hand of blessing on this person in a profound way, doing amazing things. Why not me? Why not me? If you sat before the Lord in prayer and you've cried out, why me or why not me, you need to know you are not alone. You are in the company of many amazing men and women all through biblical history that have wrestled with this question, why me or why not me? And then over time, many of us, as we wrestle through these things, we come to a place where it feels like he's just not going to intervene the way I would like, and so we just kind of turn off. Verse 24 is really interesting to me. We're going to go back to that one for a moment. Yes, Mary stayed at home, but Martha came out to meet Jesus. But you got to pay attention to what she said. She says, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. See, Martha hasn't given up. Okay, you cannot miss what I'm about to say, because I bet in my mind, I can assume after almost 20 years of ministry, multiple degrees from multiple schools, working on the front lines, many conversations around my desk, countless coffees with you, 99% of you fall into this bracket. Martha has not given up on Christ. She has given up on the idea that he will act now. Martha has not given up on Christ. She has given up on the thought that Jesus will act now. And so what does she do? She hedges her theological bet. She makes a move to go to the meta-theological story, right? So now what she says is, she says, I know in the end you're going to make it all right and all good. But she doesn't even ask in this moment for God to work a miracle here and now. She's given up faith that he will. And I think many of us, listen to me, church, I'm telling you, I think many of us fall into this place where we have just kind of hedged our theological bet, and we've broadened our theology to take this big understanding to make sure it fits our experience. And we don't think that God is going to intervene here and now. So what we do is we make the meta-narrative statements that aren't wrong. I mean, in this text, Martha is not in sin. What she's saying is not wrong. She's just lost faith that he will intervene now. I can't help but wonder how many would love a miraculous work of God but have lost faith. Either lost faith completely or lost faith in God's miraculous intervention here and now. The word hope is a really interesting word. And I know, even as a pastor, as I go back and I learn more through school, as I go back and I continue to learn more, even studying on my own or in great conversations with wonderful friends, as I unpack especially language, we discover that it's very hard to translate ideas at times. And we find, like in the New Testament, for example, the word love. We translate the word love over and over and over again in the New Testament, but there are different Greek words for love. We know this, agape, phileo, eros, right? Different words for love in Greek, and we translate them all into one word, love, but the truth is each of those words means something different. This is true of the word time, chronos and kairos, right? We have different kinds of time, but we translate both those words into just the word time in the English language. Well, if you go all the way back to Hebrew, they talk about the word hope from very different perspectives, but we translate it the same because we don't have English equivalents. There are numerous words for hope in the Bible in the Old Testament. I'm going to look at the two primary ones, or two of the primary ones. And again, even though I've been to seminary, right, like my Hebrew is not awesome, and I'm not always great at the collateral stops for the ultra nerdy people in this room. But here we go. The two primary ones are Yachel and Chavah, are the two primary words for hope that we find in Hebrew. Yachel and Chavah. That's right. Work on that collateral stop right in there. It's like you're hacking a loogie. That's right. They did it on purpose. It was awesome. And these two words mean very different things. Okay, so chavah is waiting for tension to end, like pulling on a rope tight until it breaks, until the snap, you are tense with anticipation. Yachel is a hope like excitement. Think of a child trying to go to sleep on Christmas Eve. So here it is, the chavah, literally the chav, the rope, and the kavah is the tension in the rope. So this first idea of hope is, this is hard, it is difficult labor, it's a lot of work, there is tension, and I'm just waiting for the tension to come to an end. And there's another word for hope, the second one here, the yachal, and it is hope like anticipation, like you're a little kid and you're excited and you can't wait for Sunday morning to roll around. For Sunday morning, that's a pastor. For Christmas morning, that's the rest of you. Christmas morning to roll around, right? Even in Hebrew, the way they would write this out, like in the agrarian, when they tell a story of like a guy planting seeds or working in a field, they would say that in Colaw, he is working the field. He hopes for the work to be done. It's hard work. It's labor. You're putting the seed in the ground. You're toiling the earth to be able to produce a crop. He is hoping, waiting for this work to come to an end. But after it's all planted, with anticipation, with Yachel, he cannot wait for the crop then to break through the ground and come up. Now, here's the thing that's really interesting. Okay, don't miss this. As we age, our common hope that we walk in moves from an excitement like a child, anticipation, to more tension for it to come to an end. You still have hope, but it's not the same kind of hope you had when you were young. You've been walking in anxiety and depression for so many years. The excitement that coming before God in prayer and it coming to an end, you've lost that. So in tension, you believe in the end God will make all things right, and in tension, you just wait for it to stop. As we move through the Bible, we come to the New Testament. And man, this is why language is so important. It's so important to ask the historical, grammatical, contextual questions, because rooted in understanding history and context are such deeper understandings of the gospel. And we move into the New Testament, and then in the New Testament, we find this beautiful explanation of hope that Paul brings onto the scene. See, for most of us, when I say hope, you mean hope like luck, or a desired outcome that you would like to have. But when Paul talks about hope, elpis is actually the Greek word that he uses there. So faith, hope, and love. Pistis, elpis, and agape. So it's elpis. It's a specific kind of hope. And Paul takes this hope and he removes it from a specific outcome, and he attaches this hope to the activity of Jesus. Literally, hope becomes the activity of Jesus. He makes that connection in the language. I'm going to invite Olivia up, and I'm going to begin to pull some of these ideas together over the next 6 or 7 minutes. And my prayer is is that you will see that God wants to work miraculous things in your life. Man, you see, Lazarus came to life. It didn't happen the way the ladies wanted it to. It didn't happen when the ladies wanted it to, but it happened. And there was a bigger purpose, a greater objective that was being worked on. And one of my favorite texts in the Bible is the text that says Jesus wept, right? Jesus wept. I like that one, not just because it was easy to memorize. I like that text because it reveals the heart of Christ. I'm going to make a couple of statements, and I want to encompass the idea that we don't always know the when and how that God should act, yet we are called to actually go before God in prayer and live and act as if He is going to work in profound ways. The when and the how and the timing we don't always get right, but we can't just turn off. You see, in our efforts as a child, we do not know exactly how or why God acts in certain ways or the timing of it all. Maybe God knows that it's not good for you to get what you want, and instead of continuing to grow, we become like the elephant and we just turn off. We don't even ask for the miraculous anymore. And instead of looking at this with maturity, we just stop trying. We stop. I'm going to make some statements, and there's going to be overlap with each of these statements. But they are progressive in nature to help develop a right understanding. Jesus wants to bring abundant wholeness, shalom, into your life. And shalom just doesn't mean peace. It literally means be whole and complete. You are whole and complete. Not just at peace. This isn't just like being at the beach. It's not just reprieve from the difficulty of life. It literally means whole and complete. He wants this for you. Man, some of you just need to know that. He wants you whole and complete. The second thing that we find is this. Even in amazing, and this is important because I want to speak to the people that feel like God has been silent, okay? Even in amazing, miraculous events, there are parts of this world, your life, that won't be fully right until Christ comes again. Here's what I mean by this. For example, even if you were to be healed from cancer right now today, you may still need to wear glasses. Right? I mean, even Lazarus himself walked out of the grave and then was brought back into one. Now, with that idea, I want to continue that thought. The deepest healing is in the heart. It always has been. The deepest healing is in the heart. The fullest healing is when the old order of things has passed away and the new heaven and new earth come, Revelation 21. So the deepest of healings is in your heart. And the fullest of healings is when all of this, from tsunamis to broken world to cancer to depression to poverty to hunger and disease and death, when all of this, the old order of things stops, that's the fullest healing. And the deepest healing is the one that happens in your heart. I want to continue the thought as we continue to grow deeper in this. What if you ask and God doesn't answer the way you want? Okay, now I got to pause here for a moment. The next couple of sentences are kind of nerdy, but it's important that you get this. What if you ask and God doesn't answer the way you want? Too many people assume that asking isn't an active agency of formation in and of itself. Okay? Here's what I mean by that. Anything that draws us closer to Him, God, is a win. The very act of seeking God in prayer brings broader understanding, a right focus, and a deeper relationship with God. See, when you ask God and He doesn't give you what you want, when you want, why you want it, how you want it right now, too many of us are like that baby elephant and we just stop trying. And we forget that in this case, and this is where that whole first metaphor falls completely apart, we are not baby elephants. And our process of coming before the Lord in prayer, even if we don't get what we want, why we want it, when we want it, the very process of coming before God is growing us up before Him stronger and greater. Sometimes the miracle comes, sometimes the miracle happens in our heart, and sometimes we wait on God. But the very part of asking, the very process of coming before Him is still a great thing. It is a great thing. Don't stop coming before the Lord. Don't stop coming before the Lord. Let's continue the thought. It is true that in the end, He will make all right. But that doesn't mean that He won't act now. Right now. It doesn't mean that He won't act right now. Before we go to this very last section, I want you to close your eyes. I want to pray with you. I want you to participate in this. ask the Holy Spirit would just move in this room through these people. Pray on behalf of those that you are worshiping with. I want you to pray for the people in this room that are battling with deep depression. You pray that God would work in their hearts and lives and bodies. Pray for the people that are abundantly lonely. They've lost loved ones. They feel the sting of death right now. Pray that they would have a miraculous peace that passes all understanding. Pray for the people in this room. Pray that God would do a miraculous work. Pray for your family. There'd be healing and hope that would come into it. Pray for your family. Lord God, we ask your name that you would work the miraculous. We don't always know the timing. We don't always know when. We don't always know how. We are not God. We are not omnipotent. We are not omniscient. We don't know these things, God. But what we do is we do what Paul did. We place our hope in you, Jesus. You see it. You get it. You desire our greatest good. You want us to be whole and complete and made right. You desire this for us. And Jesus, we ask for the miraculous. We ask those that struggle with physical ailment that they could be healed. It is okay as your child to petition you for these things. God, we ask for those that are struggling with depression, they would be healed, and anxiety would be healed, that those that battle with addiction would break the bonds of addiction, that their lives and hearts would be set free from porn, from alcohol. We ask to be set free, God, from these addictions. We ask this in your name. We ask that marriages would be healed. We ask this. We believe that you can and you do work. We believe this. What I want you to do now, still in the spirit of prayer, is I want you to pull out the next steps card. This is really important. And I want you to write on the next steps card what you would like God to heal. Just write it out on the next steps card. And here in a moment, as we enter into a time of worship, I want to encourage you. You're going to bring your card forward, and you're not just going to drop it off, but if God leads you in your heart, you hit your knees and you pray, God, work a miracle in this. You know the timing, you know the way, but I come before you again in formation on every front, and I ask for a miraculous work to be done in my sister who battles with depression, or in my life in this, or broken relationship. Write out what you would like God to work a miracle in. Write it on the card, and we will petition Him today. Go ahead, spend some time before the Lord. Write it out. What do you want God to heal? Go.
We just want to thank you so much for joining us online. If God's working in your heart, we would love to hear from you. Go to www.encountertrinity.com and make sure to look up our information and send us a message. We want to know what God's doing in your heart. We want you to know that you are loved by God and absolutely have a purpose.